Okay, today we're ranking every single NFL quarterback. So you have your elite, which are the top of the top, and franchise quarterbacks, which are quarterbacks the teams want to keep and build around. Solid quarterbacks, so quarterbacks that play solid football but also have their flaws, and teams aren't 100% sure if they want to keep them. Below average are like the bridge guys that are starters but might want to get replaced for somebody younger, and trash guys are the worst of the bunch. If you're your first cube quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, in the 2020 season, he really wasn't that good. I know his receivers were really young and there's a lot of miscommunications, but overall, his last few seasons haven't been great. He did win MVP twice, but he last season he was not good at all. And as his career, I don't think he's elite anymore, but he's definitely franchise. Then you have Baker Mayfield. Um, he did not do good with Carolina. He had like one or two good games with um, the Rams, but I wouldn't put him in trash since he does have all the like physical skills, but his his mental and some other things just aren't there. I'm gonna put him below average. Then you have Carson Wentz. Early on the season, he was all right, and but then in that last late game um, versus the Browns, he threw like three picks and cost the Commanders a playoff spot. And Carson Wentz, since his big injury in his like second season, he just hasn't been that good, making too many mistakes, not being clutch, not making enough big plays. I won't put him in trash because he is a veteran that can lead you to some wins and some impressive games, like the first like two games of the season, but he's still below average. I would not want him as my starter. And then you have Dak Prescott. He had an injury early on in the 2022 season, but then he came back. He did throw a lot of touchdowns, but also a lot of picks. For his career, he doesn't actually throw that many picks, and he wins a lot of games. But for some reason, last year he started to throw a ton of picks. I would too many picks, and he hasn't won anything, so I won't put him in elite. But he's a franchise guy that the Cowboys have already signed to a massive extension. And you have Daniel Jones. He had a good, not great season last year. Before that, his season was a bunch of medical seasons before last year. But in the 2022, he used his legs. He finally used his legs. But but Giants' offense was mainly focused around Saquon. So I'm not sure how much I can judge Daniel Jones. He did have his moments, but he didn't lead his team too many times. So I'm putting him in solid. Yeah, Davis Mills. He was not good. He was trash last year. As a rookie, he showed potential, but last year he was trash. I know he played on the Texans and had like no help whatsoever, but he's trash. Then you have Derek Carr. Oh, this one's an interesting. Um, Derek Carr last year did not do good. He threw about 14 interceptions in like 15 games. He did not really lead the Raiders to any. Didn't really have any big games. His stats weren't that good like they usually are, and Derek Carr is an interesting one. I'd probably put him in between franchise and solid, but after last year, I'm gonna put him in solid for now. Then you have Deshaun Watson. Oh, he had 12 game suspension, came back and looked really rusty, really rusty. And um, before that, he had like up to like 20. He hasn't played since what 2020, and he came back really rusty. Did not really have a good game. Had a decent game versus Commanders, but he had like a 55% completion, and he threw like just like one more touchdown than pick. He was not that good coming back. That's a really small sample size. I do think he can reclaim what he did a few years ago, where he could escape a sack and make a huge play. Then I'm gonna still put him in franchise, but he cannot repeat the season like he had last year. Then you have Julock, he's trash. There's Geno Smith. Oh, he had a great last season, comeback player of the year. Had like 11 touchdowns and like 30 plus picks, like 4,000, almost 5,000 yards, I think. And he had a very good season, helped the Seahawks to 9-8 record. Um, I think he should run more, but other than that, his late season, he started to become little bit more shaky, do a few more picks, but early on, he was on fire. I won't put him in franchise just yet. That could just be an anomaly of a year, but I put him in solid. Then you have Jalen Hurts, just lost the Super Bowl, but throughout the season he was great. His run game was great. His deep ball was much better until the shoulder injury. After the shoulder injury, it was kind of meh. So hopefully that doesn't translate over to next season. But this season, last season, it was great. I'm gonna put him in franchise. Not elite just yet, since he's only had like one great season. But he's good if he does good next year, I'm gonna put him in elite. But right now, Jalen Hurts is a franchise. And you have Jameis Winston. He got injured after like 2 games. But overall, his career has been below average. And you have Jared Goff. I think this year, he had a great season. In the second half of the season, he threw like no picks, led the Lions to a 9-8 record. Really good. He was last year. I think he was actually underrated, and this year I think he secured himself as the Lions franchise quarterback. So I'm gonna put him in franchise. Then you have Jimmy G, like always, a very, very solid quarterback. Not one that you really want to build your team around. Jimmy G had a solid year last year before he got injured. Solid. And then you have Joe Burrow. He had a great year. Do like what? I don't know how many like 35 touchdowns or something. I might be underestimating that a little bit. He started off the year slow, had a terrible first game, but throughout the season, rest of the season, he was great. Played like he was like the third person runner up for MVP. He led his team to the AFC Championship, and since he's been doing this for like 2 years now, 2 great years, I'm putting him in the lead. Then you have Josh Allen. Also had a very good year, but threw too many picks, too many overall turnovers, kind of played hero ball too much, but his physical attributes, his cannon arm, and his deep shot, his deep ball, which have just been great the last 3 years. His run game has been like elite, so I'm gonna put him there. Then you have Justin Fields. Finally, he started running. He started running. He had over 1,000 yard rushing, but his passing game was mediocre at best. When he needed to pass, he couldn't. There were games when they were close, and in the final drive, they needed to pass the ball. They couldn't. But Justin Fields' legs make up for it. For now, he needs to get better at passing later on. But I wouldn't put him in franchise just yet because of his like passing. I'm gonna put him in solid. Then you have Justin Herbert. He had a very good, not great year. Very conservative. I think he had 25 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Threw a lot of short passes. His deep ball was still good though when he threw it. But his biggest knack, and I think when determining if you're an elite or a franchise quarterback, is how much you win. And Justin Herbert, when the gap is that narrow between the elite and franchise, he just hasn't won enough. So I'm putting him in franchise. Then you have Kirk Cousins. Had a stat-wise, it wasn't his best year, but record-wise and his impact on his team, by far the best. He had clutch drives, close games, and I think he's a franchise guy. Then you have Kyler Murray. He got injured after 10, 12 weeks. But even before that, he wasn't that good. His passing was not great, but his legs weren't as good as they were the previous year. The Cardinals weren't doing that good overall, and I still think he's a franchise guy, but he has to get better next year. Oops. Okay, then you have Lamar Jackson, and another interesting one. Started off the season great, but then he teetered off and then injured in the end of the season, and that pretty much gave the Ravens no chance in the playoffs. We all know that he can run on his legs, super electric on his leg. His passing is inconsistent at times. At times it can be great, at times it's not. This year, this passing was all right. His legs will continue being good, but and he has all the physical attribute, but haven't really won the big game like Josh Allen. But I'm gonna put him in franchise because his last 2 to 3 years he's missed some games, been injured, and that's keeping me from putting him in the lead. Then you have Mac Jones. Interesting one. He did not have a good year last year. He did do better down the stretch of the Patriots game, but overall his year was not good. Below average year. But that might be because of Matt Patricia being OC. I still think he has the skills, and he did do well as a rookie, so I'm gonna put him in solid for now. But he has to show growth next year. Okay, then you have Marcus Mariota. Started a lot of majority of the games for the Falcons. His passing was straight trash. Couldn't throw the deep pass. Missed on his targets way too often. What's keeping me from putting him in trash is because he stayed healthy and he could run the ball. That's pretty much it. You have Matt Ryan, another not a good year for Matt Ryan. Just not a good year. The Colts offensive line was not good. He had no weapons. Matt Ryan himself was not that good overall, below average. And then you have Matthew Stafford, played 8 games, and then I think he got injured but even during those like 8, 9, however many games he played, he did not play good at all. He had like almost an even touchdown interception ratio. Rams were still losing with him. He is only 1 year off of being a Super Bowl MVP or Super Bowl champion, and and I do think he still have it in here. The Rams clearly still believe in him, but last year was not good. But I still think he's a franchise guy. Yeah, Mitchell Trubisky started half the games. I'm gonna include this with Pickett. Trubisky didn't do bad. The play calling was really bad. Um, Trubisky had his fair share of good games, but also some really bad games. I'm gonna put both Trubisky and Pickett in the solid category. And then you have Patrick Mahomes. He's the Super Bowl champion, MVP. He's elite. Then you have Russell Wilson. A horrible year last year. It was horrible with Daniel Hackett and Denver Broncos in total. Russell Wilson did get better down the stretch, but for a majority of the season, he was missing his wide receivers, taking sacks, not leading the Broncos anywhere. But in his career, he has done well in his career, but last year was hopefully just an anomaly. I wouldn't put him in franchise after that year, but he's still solid. Then you have Ryan Tannehill. I'm not sure. He was just like invisible. I don't remember reading anything about him. He didn't do horrible, not bad enough to get in the media, but not good enough to be impressed. I'm gonna put him solid also. Sam Darnold, he had like 2 to 3 good games, and then went back to being his trash self. He's trash. Then you have Tom Brady. Um, Stat wise, he wasn't actually that bad last year. He did retire, but in his career, he is elite. Last year, I see him as franchise, but he did lead a really bad Bucks team on offense, especially with all those injuries to the playoffs. So I'm gonna put him in elite for the last time. Then you have Trevor Lawrence. Second half of the season, he exploded. His first half wasn't that good, but in the second half, he had like very few interceptions. Led the Jaguars to a playoff win, something Herbert still hasn't done yet. He looks like a franchise guy. Not elite, obviously, not elite yet, but franchise. Then you have Trey Lance. Played like 2 games. If there was we'll have to wait. I put him there. We haven't seen enough from him, but judging on his play, he was below average. Tua, his stat wise and his play on the field actually wasn't that bad. If it was based off just play, I think I put him in franchise. But because of all those injuries that he had, and those concussions, and just him missing games, I'm gonna put him in solid. Not a franchise just yet, but solid. Then you have Zach Wilson. He was trash. He only has a winning record because of his defense. His play on the field sucked. Okay, so there you have it, my NFL 2022 quarterback ranking.